Hello, 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 ladies and gentlemen. This is Dr. Mary Payton with All About STEM Radio. And you remember I come to you every Wednesday from 6 to 7 p.m. Here on the blue screen, Central Time. And this is a beautiful day here in Texas. And so let's not forget everything that's going on this weekend. A lot of organizations have things going on. So if there is something you're looking forward to do, please take a look on the internet. And for some reason, this long weekend, everybody's having something. Also, don't forget the Sharkey Awards are on the 10th. No, the 10th Sharkey Awards are on October 19th. Do y'all still have tickets, Gary?
No.
Oh, you're sold out. Oh, well, I'm sorry, y'all can't get tickets. But think about it for next year. This is Fishbowl's 10th year, and we are so proud of them, or I'm so proud of them. And today I have two guests. One guest, he's here. We want to talk about something that's happening this weekend. He asked me if he could come on for a few minutes. And then I have, and he's from the Fort Worth Zoo, Mr. Lambert. And I met him at a turtle catch with Andrew Brinker, right?
Yep.
And then I also have Amy here. She is from Unplain Jane Studios.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, I met her earlier in the summer over at the Museum of Art. Now she has a exhibit there on mums. And if you are from Texas or southern Oklahoma, you know what a homecoming mum is. And she's going to talk about that just a little bit. But we're going to start with Mr. Lambert first.
All right. So I'm here to talk about the Lone Star Rattlesnake Days. It's going to be at the Texas State Fair this year. It was last year as well. It's going to be starting on Friday, October 11th, and it will be going through Sunday the 13th. Again, it's going to be at the Texas State Fair at the Texas Discovery Gardens. It's going to be from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. And what this is a educational event. This is going to be, there's going to be educational talks, there's going to be STEM-related activities, there's going to be games for the kids, and basically, and venom extractions from rattlesnakes as well. There's also going to be opportunities for people to interact with non-venomous snakes too, like rat snakes, sorry, we'll correct myself there. And again, this is a purely educational event. Not that you won't have fun there, too. But this is kind of a alternative to what are called rattlesnake roundups.
Mm-hmm.
There are several throughout the United States. There's a couple big ones here in the western United States. And, what these are kind of what rattlesnake roundups are. They're kind of carnivals that are kind of centered around rattlesnakes.
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of started in the mid 20th century.
Okay.
And it was kind of a way to, because people thought rattlesnakes would like kill their cattle and stuff by biting them, and trying to keep rattlesnake numbers down. But that's not really an issue now. We're not really sure if that ever really was one. But what these rattlesnake roundups, these events are, they're not very sustainable. They're also not very humane. They do kill the rattlesnakes, and
But y'all aren't doing that. Y'all
no. This is a no-kill educational event.
all the snakes that you're bringing in are those that.
They're from different facilities.
Okay, so you're working with other organizations,
yes.
not just the Fort Worth and Dallas Zoo, right?
Yeah, most of these rat animals will be provided by Austin Reptile Service. That's run by Tim Cole. He's on the board of the Lone Star Rattlesnake Days. And hold on.
So is there a charge to get into this?
To get into the fair, yeah. But the exhibit is free.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, once you get into the fair, It is a free exhibit.
It's a free. Okay.
Mhm. And
All
again,
right.
it's from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. This is a collaborative event. People from Fort Worth Zoo, Dallas Zoo, again, Austin Reptile Service, and Kentucky Reptile Zoo is also affiliated with it. They'll be doing the venom extractions.
Okay. All right.
Um,
So the guests, the people that come to visit, it's not required that they touch a snake, right?
Oh, no, absolutely not.
No.
We're not trying to get people to fall in love with snakes. As much as I would like that to happen,
I know.
we want them, but we would like them to learn about them and may walk away with a better, with a respect for them and better appreciation for them, because they are very important.
Okay.
For ecosystems. They keep rodent populations down.
They do.
Oh yeah, and actually, by doing that, they keep like the parasites associated with rodents down. Up north, there has been research suggesting that timber rattlesnakes will actually keep Lyme disease incidence down, because they eat the rodents that carry the ticks that carry Lyme disease.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Now, tell my guest your name again, where you're from, and what they can see if they come to where you are, not during a rattlesnake roundup.
Again, I just want to clarify, this is not a rattlesnake roundup.
It's an exhibit.
It's an exhibit. I'm George Lambert. I am a reptile keeper at Fort Worth Zoo. And I take care of all the scaly and slimy things. Slimy ones being the amphibians, of course. Snakes aren't slimy. I just want to put that out there. Yeah, that's basically what I do.
And how long have you been with the Fort Worth Zoo?
I started at Fort Worth Zoo late April. So
Okay.
I'm still relatively new there, but I have worked at other facilities before this too. But yeah.
And how did you get involved with snakes?
Oh, I've loved snakes since I can remember. I was just telling Amy here that I had started with dinosaurs. Yeah, that's very common. It's a kind of a boring way to start out a conversation, because people will be like, "Well, how did that?" Because it's usually the same answer. It started with dinosaurs. But yeah, it started with dinosaurs. Actually, my dad, he was terrified of snakes.
Yep.
But he must have loved me, because he bought me my first snake, and I still have her. She's 18 years old.
What is she?
She's a ball python.
That's what I had.
Yeah.
In Dubai, I had a ball python. Pickles.
Yeah. It's a great name for a snake.
But she was a sweet snake.
Oh yeah, ball pythons are sweet.
But she's very curious, though. I didn't know snakes were curious. I mean, she'd get out, and you just find her in weird places in the room. I'm like, where is the snake today?
Yeah, I mean, snakes, we're finding out more and more about snakes all the time. As I was saying before with you guys, before we went on the air, they're a lot more social than we used to think.
Yeah.
Their cognitive abilities may be much more than we used to give them credit for.
Okay. I'll give you a couple more minutes. If my listeners want to find more information out about the, I've got it written down here to make sure I say it right, the Lone Star Rattlesnake Day, where would they need to go?
So we have a couple group pages.
Okay.
There's the Lone Star Rattlesnake Days group page on Facebook.
Okay.
There's also the official Rattlesnake Preservation Trust, which is affiliated with Lone Star Rattlesnake Days. There's that Facebook group page. I actually run I'm part of the social media aspect of that. And we also have an Instagram page, the Rattlesnake Preservation Trust, on there as well.
Okay.
So we do updates and stuff, especially on the Lone Star Rattlesnake Days page, just because that is the event page.
Okay.
Yeah.
And last question: if you see a rattlesnake in the wild, what is the basic thing you should do?
It's
not. You're like 5 or 6 feet from it. You're not like right up on it. But what should you do?
So what I tell people, whether it's an adult, whether it's a 5-year-old, I just tell them, just back up and walk away.
Because snakes don't chase you, do
Yeah,
they?
they do not chase you.
Okay, so-
Sometimes if a snake comes towards you, it's usually because you're just in the way of where their usual escape route would be. They were way too big to eat. So the central focus
Yes.
of our event, and usually for the rattlesnake roundups, are these are western diamondback rattlesnakes.
Okay.
So that's the most iconic rattlesnake.
Okay.
Like that's what you think of when you think about Texas, I
Okay.
think, or the southwestern United States. And even they get like 6 feet long. And they're a big venomous snake, but even if they're longer than you are tall, we're a lot bigger than they are.
Yeah.
We weigh a lot more than they do. We're taller, much taller than they are. They're low to the ground. They look at us like Godzilla. They think we're going to eat them, and their venom did not evolve for defense.
Okay.
It
for
evolved to
protection.
kill prey.
Oh.
And actually, about 25% of venomous snake bites in the U.S. are dry bites. That means they don't inject any venom. They can control how much venom they inject.
Okay.
And actually, I have the statistic here from the CDC. 1 to 2, there are only about 1 to 2 fatal snake bites in Texas each year, and only 6 on average in the United States.
Oh. Okay.
So you have access to health care, but again, just leave them alone. Watch where you put your hands and your feet. And the best way to keep snakes out off your property is to kind of don't keep it cluttered.
Yeah.
Keep clutter out. Don't overwater your lawn so you have like a lot of grass
Yeah.
and stuff just immediately around the house. Stuff like that. It's we can coexist with them. We just got to be snake savvy.
Just common sense thing.
Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this has been Mr. Lambert from the Fort Worth Zoo, giving us some great information about a wonderful event this weekend, the Lone Star Texas the Lone Star I keep saying Texas, the Lone Star Rattlesnake Roundup at the Texas State Fair, October 11th through the 13th. Thank you so much for coming by and giving us all this great information. And he's at the Fort Worth Zoo, so if you go to the reptile area at the Fort Worth Zoo, you might see him out there. And I know y'all can see him because we're on Facebook Live, so you know what he looks like. So say, hey, Mr. Lambert, when you go out there and take your children. All right, thank you. And now I want to get to Amy. Yesterday I went to, y'all know I volunteer at the Arlington Museum here. And I walk in and there is this huge, and I'm going to have to post it to Facebook, this huge, I can just continue to say it, mum that is hanging by my reception station. And from our best known restaurant here in Texas, Whataburger. It is made with Whataburger napkins and, the little V tents that you put on your table with the numbers on there. Some of those were on there. Streamers, pie wrappers, French fry wrappers, all of that great stuff. But she's going to talk about her exhibit. Mom, wait a minute. What is it? Mom Nation? No.
Close.
Yeah.
Momentous.
Momentous.
The upsizing of a Texas
Yeah.
tradition.
The upsizing of a Texas tradition. If you are from Texas, you know what mums are. So, Amy, introduce yourself a little bit.
I'm happy to. Thank you, Dr. Mary. It's really fun to be here today. And also with George, my counterpart, we're really both talking about the same thing, and that is something that's indigenous to Texas, right?
Yeah.
So homecoming moms are most definitely indigenous to Texas. Although, as you have suggested, they are starting to spread across the country. So my name is Amy Schultz, and I am the owner of Unplain Jane Studio, which is a photography and writing studio. I do all kinds of work for clients, and I do ghost blogging and all kinds of creative content providing for my clients. But you know, an artist has got to be an artist, and so when you ask an artist what they're up to, what they really want to talk about is their own little pet project. And so Texas high school homecoming moms became sort of a pet project of mine about 4 years ago.
Really?
Yeah. So I did not grow up in Texas. And,
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Florida.
Oh, okay.
And when I was in high school, I had a homecoming mom. However, it was a live chrysanthemum flower that
Yeah,
was
mine was too.
pretty petite by today's Texas mom standards. But so I knew what a mom was, and I knew a little bit about the tradition, but from the point of view of Floridian. So when my husband and I moved here almost 2 decades ago, you know, every fall you go into Michael's or Hobby Lobby and you see all of these artificial mum flowers plus tons and tons of trinkets to go along with it. And since I didn't grow up here, I thought I knew what they were, but I really had no idea how expansive the tradition was in Texas until I started to study it as a photographer. So how did that happen? Well, like I said, about 4 years ago, I asked a good friend of mine who has a couple kids in high school if I could tag along to a mom making session.
Oh, they have mom making sessions here?
Well, informally, and I
Yeah,
suspect
and
all
that's
across,
informal.
all across the state. So in this particular case, my friend is a member of her kids' high school band booster club.
Okay.
And the booster club got together, made and sold homecoming mums as a fundraiser. And so I tagged along and brought my camera because if you have photographers or videographers who are listening to your program, you know, we always bring our equipment along with us whenever we're going somewhere new.
Always.
Always. So I brought my camera along and I helped cut ribbon, and they very wisely kept me away from the glue gun. But I took some pictures, and you know, it's funny when you look through the lens, at least when I look through the lens of a camera, it sometimes helps me see a little bit clearer. And what I saw was a group of women who had gathered together, who were very diverse, and they were all doing one thing. And basically what they were doing was building and being a part of a tradition that essentially exists to celebrate an important milestone in their children's lives. And I thought, well, now that's a beautiful story. I think I need to learn more. And here I am 4 years later.
And you're still learning from it.
I'm still learning. People have been very generous in sharing some pretty powerful and also really funny stories about their moms.
Now, tell us a little bit about your exhibit at the Arlington Museum of Art.
Oh,
Momentum.
Yes, I sure will. So after I spent several years shooting pictures and collecting stories, I was very fortunate to have the opportunity to be invited by the Arlington Museum of Art to serve as their first ever artist in residence.
Oh, that's right.
Yes,
That's when I met you.
Yes, that's exactly right. And so you helped show me the ropes around the museum that summer, just this past summer. And part of the reason I was invited was because my collection of photographs and stories that I'd written were pretty close to being ready for the public. And so thanks to the museum's incredibly supportive staff and just in general, wonderful staff, and in general, a very creative environment, I was able to envision how, you know, pictures that are digital on my computer still and stories that are in my computer still, I was able to really envision them in an actual physical space. And so I spent the first couple months of my residency printing photographs and envisioning how they would be set up in a way that would tell a more complete story of the homecoming mom tradition.
Now, you have a lot of moms there.
I do.
But what I noticed about them, now when I was in high school, you know, you had your little chrysanthemum and you had a few ribbons, you might have had a cowbell on there and a few other things. But these moms are huge.
They're pretty big.
They're huge.
So because I'm a photographer and a writer, and I'm not sure if you picked up on the fact that a little bit earlier I said I'm not so good with a glue gun.
Right.
Not
They
so
didn't
good.
trust you.
Not so good.
Okay.
They didn't trust me, and for good reason. You know, when I was putting together an exhibition in a large space like a museum, it really became very apparent that I needed to have a mum, at least one mum, actual mum, on display. But not being a mum maker, I thought that it would not be as authentic if I created a mum specifically for the exhibit. What I really wanted to do, if I could figure out a way to exhibit a mum that had been worn by someone and had been made by someone who cared about them. And so fast forward to now at the Arlington Museum of Art, I have an exhibit that includes 94 homecoming mums and garters of varying sizes, from as tiny as one that fits on your finger to one so large that you have to hang it from your neck with a harness.
Wow.
And so, and the way I accomplished that simply was our good friend, social media. I put out a call and asked folks in the DFW area if they wouldn't mind loaning me their mums and garters for a couple months, and the mums and garters came flooding in.
I mean, you have tons and tons of them, but they're gorgeous. Now, Gary and I were going, not you, Gary, my other Gary. We were going around yesterday. He was telling me which were his favorite mums, and I was looking at what my favorite mums were. One of the ones that he really liked was the one with the Phantom of the Opera. So obviously that person must have been a theater person.
That's right.
And so I was watching your video and looking at later on looking at the mums, because mums back when I was a cheerleader. Yes, I was a cheerleader, y'all. Yes.
That doesn't surprise me at all, Mary.
The mums were just, like I said, just simple flower streamers, so on and so forth. But they didn't really specify anything, much. If you were in the band, you might have had a instrument thing on there. If you were a cheerleader, you might have had a megaphone on there. But beyond that, you didn't have those that focused on specific talents or things that students did. So, how did you come up with the information about that? Because I was listening to your video that you have running up there.
So, after spending a lot of time shooting pictures and talking to people about their mums, I really felt like I had learned a lot of anecdotal stories, but I felt like I needed to do as much hard research as could be done on a subject that's never been written about academically. And so I turned to our good friend, newspapers.com, and I spent all summer researching the stories that have been written about homecoming mums, anecdotal pictures that included homecoming mums and garters, as well as advertisements, letters to the editor, etc. And so I've kind of pieced together the answer to the question that you just asked, like how did mums go from something that was really kind of a perfunctory gesture between a boy and a girl to something that is could easily be categorized as almost performance art.
Yes.
And so I think it's a complicated question with a complicated answer, and I know we're limited in time.
No, you've got time.
I suspect that none of us would be particularly surprised by the fact that the social media has a little something to do with that.
Oh,
so, but it's really not the driver. So what I learned through my research is that the driver of all of this really is surprisingly simple. So up until the early 60s, the only kind of homecoming mum that there was a live chrysanthemum flower.
Because that's what I had.
That's what you had. That's what I had in the 80s. But some super smart wholesalers in Texas figured out that, if we could convince florists to carry artificial flowers that they purchase from us instead of just offer live flowers, then this solves a couple of problems, right? An artificial flower can keep longer in the florist shop, so they don't have to worry about refrigeration. And an artificial flower is something that the wearer can keep forever. So suddenly a corsage that, is sort of falls apart in a week becomes a memento that could last a lifetime. And so this simple change from a corsage being something temporary to something permanent changed everything, because it did so it became a sentimental keepsake. What also happened is that as our craft stores, like for instance, I think Michael's opened its first store in 1977, if I'm remembering that correctly, and they're headquartered in Dallas. No big surprise. And Hobby Lobby that opened its first store in Oklahoma, pretty close by, right around the same time. So, but in the 60s and the 70s, the other magical thing happened. So these artificial flowers went from a florist,
Yes.
where a professional was controlling the outcomes, into the hands of do-it-yourselfers who could do anything they wanted to. And you know, when a DIYer gets his or her hands,
A hot glue gun goes a long way.
sure does. And so then florists, in turn, had to start keeping up with the DIYers by offering
Yeah.
more and more customization. And so as we move through the decades, customization moved from, you know, I'm a cheerleader, I'm a football player, my identity is wrapped in what I do in high school,
Yep.
to things that were a whole lot more personal. This is what I want to be when I grow up. This is the statement that I want to make. The mums have gone well beyond just a statement of high school pride and tradition.
Yes.
They're statements of personal pride.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Because I find it so strange. There is it used to be a florist shop in Riverside where I lived, and growing up, it was always a florist shop. You go in there, and you could buy flowers, but then you could also buy stuff that was like 5 and dime. And I went in there probably 7 or 8 years ago, and it was nothing but a place where they make mums. It was a huge mum shop. And I'm like, what happened?
Well, they figured out that that's, that's a really, and you've really hit on a very important point here, that mums have, for many, become a way to either make a part-time living or a
Yeah.
full-time living. So that little floral shop that you remember has really latched on something important for their bottom line, that's also a part of the life of the community.
And it's been there since I was a child, and it's still there, and it's one of the few businesses that have been open as long as I can remember. It hasn't changed names, it's just changed with the times.
Well, kudos to the small business owner or family who's been able to adapt. You know, there's an awful lot of florists across the state of Texas that got out of the mum business because they really felt like it wasn't kind of their core business model. So I think it's terrific to hear examples of florists that have been able to make it work for them, because a lot of florists genuinely tried but couldn't make it work for them. And of course the reason for that is they had competition in the market.
Oh yeah.
So I mentioned those DIYers, right? Well, I bet you've got some folks at home that are pretty creative with their hands and pretty business savvy. So what do you think a DIYer does who's pretty business savvy? Well, she, and it's primarily women, sets up her own business. And so she becomes direct competition to those florists.
Now, you're talking about direct competition. I'm going through my head with the video that you have running at the museum. Ladies and gentlemen, she has pictures, she has videos, she has actual mums. She has this one little area that's like a football football field that you can walk on to look at these mums. But in watching that video, just the history of it was just amazing.
Oh, I'm so glad. So thank you for that, because, when I started this exhibition, or envisioned this exhibition, I certainly had never produced a video myself before.
It was good. It's good.
Thank you. So, you got to get by with help from your friends, right? So it became very apparent to me that the story of the history of homecoming moms needed to be told in the exhibition. So I collaborated with a good friend of mine who is an award-winning video producer, and we created this sort of storyline through which we could tell based on the research that I had done. And I really think, this is a question that people ask me all the time, is why and how did it happen? And I really wanted to at least begin to provide the answer to that for anyone who comes to see the exhibition. So it was a labor of love for sure. And from an artistic standpoint, I learned something. I learned about video production, just like today I'm learning about what it means to be on the radio.
You're fine. You're fine. Hey, George, do you have any questions? Did you buy your girlfriend a mum or something like that when you were in high school, or?
No.
It's never too late.
No, that's kind of a weird kid in high school. Although I was prom king though. But
Okay.
I don't know how that happened.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
It's okay.
So this is sort of an interesting point, though. If you know, I think that even just 10 years ago, folks in high school look at the homecoming mom and garter tradition differently than kids in high school do today. And I love it because I really actually feel like there are more ways to access the tradition.
Yeah.
You know, it's not, you don't have to be in a traditional dating relationship
Oh,
where
yeah.
boy asks girl, girl says yes. There are every kind of variant that you can imagine. You know, grandma and granddaughter make a mum together.
Yes.
You know, two besties get together and make their mums for each other, or you know, a giant mum making party. So I love that about the way, and this is so Texan, right, is to sort of embrace the love big. And I mean, I think Texans really, that's what I love about being in Texas. Texans love, if you're inside, they're inside. Jokes, their families, they just, they love large, they do things large. And so the idea that more people can be involved in the tradition because the tradition is becoming more accessible to people, that is so Texan, and it just is a reason that we should be proud of our kids, because it's our kids that are figuring out ways to be more inclusive.
Yeah, I mean, I was a high school teacher. Well, I was a middle school teacher and a high school teacher, and just seeing the whole thing of homecoming week was an event. If you have not been around a high school during homecoming week, you have missed a lot, because you have certain day, you have twin day, pajama day, Hawaii day, and then you have that culminating last day of homecoming, when it's the day of the homecoming game. And you wear your mom, and you dress up, and you know, you have the homecoming king and queen that come out. But I mean, you will see some of the most beautiful or outrageous moms anywhere. Because on your video, you had this one young lady that had a mom that was pretty much all the way around.
Isn't that incredible?
Was that one that she made, or one that
She and her mom made it.
that thing
Yeah,
was?
front and back. It was sort of like a sandwich board. I mean, it
Yeah.
was just ginormous. Yeah. So I have to tell you something. So in terms of kind of that inclusion and creativity that students are exhibiting today. So I'm looking at Dr. Mary right now, and she's wearing her cool All About STEM Radio
Hey,
T-shirt.
I got my new shirt.
So I have sort of a fun story for you, and I wouldn't have had
Uh-oh,
this
but
yesterday.
I do.
No. You're going to love it, because guess what? It's all about STEM.
Uh-huh.
So I just recently discovered that at Martin High School,
Yes.
I hope that there are some Martin High School folks listening right now, their STEM program is starting a new tradition at Martin High School. They are, right now as we speak, building homecoming mums and garters for their fellow classmates who are in the special needs program.
Oh.
And they are making customized ones, so everybody's mom has their name on it, just like you would traditionally.
Yep.
Their homecoming's in a couple weeks.
Yes,
and
it
so
is.
when all those mums and garters are ready, they're going to have a special exchange where the STEM students present their classmates with their specially made mums, so that everybody can participate in the tradition. And first of all, how lovely is that?
It's wonderful.
Second of all, can I just tell you, when you see, I actually went to Martin High School today and took their pictures with permission. When you see a group of STEM kids, 17 of them actually, STEM kids, young people, building homecoming moms, can I tell you, this is like an engineering marvel.
It is.
They're so meticulous about getting them just right, and the weight and the balance, and the way that they kind of created the process for creating mums that would be mums built to last. It was fantastic. So I wanted to share that with you, because I knew that you would love that it's the STEM kids that are taking the lead at Martin High School to be more inclusive with their traditions there.
Well, see, that's that whole STEM to STEAM thing.
Right.
That art has to be a part of it.
Yep. And they believed it, and they're living it as we speak.
Yeah, that is so cool. And you know, those kids who are making the mums are going to remember this for the rest of their life, and those kids that are getting the mums are going to remember it. And what I like about it, and we've said this time and time again, the mums that we had live flowers. These mums, a lot of people will keep for years. They'll go off to college and come back home, and their mom is still at home. We have a young lady that works with us. I'm not going to talk about her. Kendall. Anyway, her mom is in the collection, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
And
a couple of them.
Yeah, and it's one
And
that
her
she
brothers
made.
that she
Oh,
made.
her brothers is?
And she also made one when she was in college. She made a mum for a friend of hers who was still in high school.
Mm-hmm. And see, she's in college. I mean, she's graduated college
Yeah.
and comes back, and she still has that mom.
Right.
Oh, I don't know, even know her mine is, but let's. I want to back up just a little
Sure.
bit. The cost of mums. Now, cost of making them, you've got all summer. You can just kind of save and make and buy things. But the cost of mums, is that starting to rise because you say everything is bigger in Texas?
Well, this is one of those questions where I sort of have to scratch my head a little bit because absolutely, if you're looking at the largest version of a mum,
Yes.
you know that mum's going to cost a lot
Yeah.
of money. But I think really, truly, it isn't so much what a mum costs, it's sort of what you're willing to pay.
Yeah.
So I've talked with a number of students who are frugal and on a budget. Talked to one young lady, and I love this story. So she and her boyfriend were dating during homecoming, and they just didn't want to spend a whole lot of money. So each one of them chipped in $30, so they had $60 between them. And she went shopping, and she, took a dive into her mom's sewing kit and kind of pulled together all the materials necessary, and they created their mom and their garter on $60, and they wore them proudly because it was something they created together.
And that makes sense.
So I really think that the real question is it's not how much they cost, it's how much you're willing to pay. That being said, I do think it's interesting. There are real differences if you look at mums in urban settings, like
Yeah.
in DFW, versus mums in more rural settings in Texas. So I've talked with mum makers from all over the state.
Oh, really?
And and the average price of a mum in, let's say, Dallas, is probably between $90 and $250. And then there's the extreme versions that are quite a bit more. The average price in a more rural area of Texas is somewhere between $25 and $50. And that has a lot to do with availability of materials,
Yeah.
but it also just has to do with what's traditional in that town.
Oh, yeah.
Because really, we're celebrating homecoming as a team. Homecoming is a team sport, right? And so part of it is the celebration is to stand out, but part of the celebration is to fit in too.
Yeah.
And so if a $50 mum is sort of what's in fashion in your town, that's probably what you're going to do.
And I like that. It varies from place to place. What you may
Widely.
see, even between Dallas and Fort Worth, what you may see in Dallas, you probably won't see in Fort Worth. What you see in Arlington, you definitely won't see. You may not see in Dallas. But if you go down to like Lubbock or Fairfield or Corsicana or Waxahachie, some of these more smaller towns, it is going to be different.
Right.
And the availability is different, and their traditions are different because a lot of these small towns may have big mums because football is everything.
That's for sure.
And up here it's more about I got a mom and this is what it should look like, and it's going to be more expressive of I'm in the band, I'm in culinary arts, I am in media. It may take on that persona. But I was looking at, I know I keep going back to your video, but that's okay. That's what old people do. Where do people get all the stuff to make these mums?
Well, of course, now people can order materials online, which
Yep.
was certainly not the case when you and I were married
No.
mums. So there's plenty of kind of wholesalers and retailers online. But I think local shoppers like to. I sort of like to look at the materials whenever I'm making
Yeah.
something. As an artist, I want to be able to touch and feel and figure out what I need and then buy it. So. Smart local shoppers usually know where the wholesalers are. And
Yeah.
so aren't we lucky in Dallas and Fort Worth that there are at least a couple of wholesalers that, you know, you can Google or see on Facebook, and you could just drive out and pay a little bit less even.
Yeah.
And then there's superstores, craft stores like Michael's and Hobby Lobby and that sort of thing. But the good news is that there's just a myriad of places where you can purchase those materials. I sort of like the stories of, you mentioned before, family, people
Yeah.
who keep their moms.
Mhm.
And, you know, after the kid might have gone off to college and become a young adult, mom might still be hanging on to the mom, right? Now it's moved from the bedroom wall to the closet and maybe even in the attic. Well, you know, fast forward maybe 10, 20 years and that child's having a child. I've met several families where they upcycle the previous
Really?
generation's mom or parts of the mom into the next generation's mom.
It's kind of like a wedding dress thing.
It very much of a, well, yes, I mean, it evokes all sorts of ideas of, you know, sort of passing the tradition on from one generation to the next. And I think that's lovely. If this is an important milestone or way for a family to celebrate a milestone, isn't it great to think that, you know, that mom might just live on in the next generation?
Yes, and you know, and I never would have thought of it that way, because for me it was like, okay, you wore it, you kept it until the flower, you know, disintegrated, and you could have put the streamers in the boxes. I kept my streamers and stuff hung in my closet for a long time, and then, you know, finally threw it away. But
Well, they did tend to fall apart a little bit. Although I'm pretty tickled. You know, we've got some mums in that mum exhibition, Mums on Loan, that date back to the 80s. The oldest mum that I have is from 1981. It's an Arlington High School mum. You can actually see the stem of the original flower that's still there. It's all dried up. I have a Sam Houston mum
Yes.
from 1984, and you can still see the dried up petals in the middle with the little pipe cleaner, bent pipe cleaners in the shape of SHHS. So I don't know how those ladies kept their mums all those years, but they were successful where I certainly failed.
hey, me too, but that's okay.
That's okay.
How did you come up with the name Momentous?
Well, thank you for asking that. I don't think anybody's ever asked me that before.
Yes, I've been wondering that, but I was like, I'm gonna wait and save this for the show.
Thank you. Well, I will, to be perfectly honest with you, the working title was Mum's the Word for a long time. And then I realized that outside of Texas and other mum-wearing states, mum isn't the word. In fact, you know, I've told my family, I have family who live in Michigan, they didn't really even know what I was talking about. When I said the word mum, they just did, they had nothing to attach that to. And so I had this epiphany that mum's actually not the word outside of Texas. So I knew I had to come up with some other way to describe it. So I played around with a lot of different variations, and I came up with the term momentous, and this is overly cute, so I apologize. It's a little cute.
That's okay.
And of course, first of all, for your listeners, I misspell the word momentous with a U, so it's momentous, haha. But phonetically, what that breaks down into is what the mums meant to us. So that's, I told you it was a little cute.
That is.
Thank you.
Isn't that just great?
Yeah.
So
that's where it came from.
and you know, think about it. When you look at it, if you have it 10, 15, 20 years from now, who gave it to you? Are you still with her? Are you still with him? You know, yeah, it's just a lot. Or if your mother made it, or you made it with your mother and your grandmother and your sisters, you're gonna keep those because that's like keeping, as we said earlier, a wedding dress is really important to you.
Right.
And as we said, they're now customized to who you are. I mean, we just went to the floral shop and bought one that had one made that had, you know, Kelly green and white on it because that was my school colors. And that's what you wore. But now people are so special, you know. A STEM group may have little robots on theirs.
Oh,
or,
for sure. I've seen LED displays in mums.
Oh yeah, they're some of the ones that you have hung up have LEDs.
Yep.
Now, we didn't get to talk about the pictures because we've got like 5 minutes. But
Okay.
all the pictures that you have hung up with your exhibit, where did you get all of those from?
Well, so that's really, for me, that's really the heart of the story, and that's where it all started. So because I'm a photographer by trade, this project started as a photography project. So without going into lots of detail, I just knew after I had spent time with my friend taking pictures of moms making mums that I had to go out and shoot as much of the story as I could. So thanks to the very kind folks at J.J. Pierce High School and Nolan Catholic High School and Arlington High School and the Oak Ridge School and Keller High School and Reedy High School and today Martin High School and others, I was invited inside and I was able to take photographs in a non-traditional way. And that was my goal as a photographer and an artist. I did not want to take portraiture, which is what you see on Instagram, essentially. If you think about it, if you see a mom picture on Instagram, it's a portrait. It's a person standing still, posing in their mom. I wanted to take pictures of people moving in their moms, experiencing their life in the day in the life in their moms, people squished into their desks in their moms and laughing and marching and changing classes and hugging. And so that's what those 60 pictures represent, is how you live in your mom and what that mom means to you on that very special day.
And, you're talking about sitting and squeezing and actually living in that mom. As a teacher, girls would come in with these big, beautiful mums on, and they would need some place to hang them so they could sit and do their schoolwork. And I'm like, okay, all right, this week I've got to make sure I've got somewhere for them to put these things so they don't get messed up. But it was always a wonderful situation.
It's so fun, right? So there's even a picture in my collection of a mom hospital that the Arlington High School home economics teacher sets up every year with extra glue and guns and scissors and staplers, so that if your mom starts falling apart during the day, you can stop by the quote-unquote mom hospital and fix it up.
That is so ingenious.
Isn't that cute?
So tell us about where is the exhibit showing, how long is it going to be showing, and any social media where people can contact you.
Great, thank you. So the name of the exhibition is Momentous, the Upsizing of a Texas Tradition. It is at the Arlington Museum of Art here in lovely Arlington, Texas.
Yes.
The exhibition, it will be available for viewing through November 24th.
Oh.
The Whataburger Mom that Dr. Mary described earlier is only there through October 19th.
Really?
So if you want, and then the mom is going to travel a little bit, from what I understand. And then eventually Whataburger will be including that mom in a festival in San Antonio. I should mention that mom is 6 feet wide, it's 18 feet long, and it was created by a parade float builder in Dallas. So it's very non-traditional. So
this thing is gorgeous, y'all.
It's really something.
You've got to get out
Yep.
to see this before it leaves.
So really, it's not officially a part of the exhibition. I guess the best way to describe it is it's the most fun sponsor board pretty much ever. So that's what that Whataburger Mom is. So that's available to view here in Arlington through October 19th.
Okay.
And that's it. The Arlington Museum of Art's hours, of course, are on their website. You can purchase tickets in advance through the website. And if you're really lucky, you'll see Dr. Mary there, and she'll greet you, and she'll show you around the museum.
Yeah, I'm there on Tuesday afternoons. But what is your website for Unplain Jane Studios, and where is Unplain Jane located? Because we're not just talking about the exhibit. I need to make sure my audience know how to.
Thank you. So, fortunately, you pretty much said the name of the website. So the name of the website is unplainjanestudio.com. And there's a pretty obvious page on that website about the exhibition, so you can learn a little bit more. You can also find the hashtags, but it's Unplain Jane Studio. If you're really only interested in mums and not so much about Unplain Jane Studio, I also have a standalone hashtag for that. It's TXHOCOMUM on Facebook and Instagram. And Unplain Jane Studio is located in Denton County.
It is?
Yeah.
Wow. I like driving up that way.
Good. Come on up.
Well, I want to finish with George talking. Can you tell us again about the Rattlesnake Day, Lone Star Rattlesnake Day on...
So again, it's the Lone Star Rattlesnake Days is going to be this weekend, starting
Yay.
Friday, October 11th. It's going to start at 10 a.m., 5 p.m. It's going to run through to Sunday the 13th. Again, it's 10 a.m., 5 p.m. daily. Remember, there's going to be venom extractions, educational talks on snakes, STEM-related games and activities. And you'll get to meet some really awesome people. It's going to be a good time, and I encourage you guys to come.
Yes.
The exhibit itself is free. Obviously, you have to pay admission to get into the fair, but you can't put a price on learning things, you know, and getting to see all kinds of awesome snakes. And again, we hope you come away with a greater appreciation, and we want you to have fun and learn something.
And when you have time, email me a picture of, what's your snake's name?
Oh, her name is Sheba.
Sheba?
I have a lot of other snakes, too, actually.
I want the ball python because that's what I had. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this has been Dr. Mary Payton with All About STEM Radio. Don't forget, I come to you every Wednesday from 6 to 7 p.m. here on the Blue Stream. And I'm quite sure I will have another exciting guest next Wednesday. So please, please, please turn in. And thank you. Bye-bye.
When it's time to advertise your company, business, product, service, think fishbowlradio.com.